Okay. Okay, good morning. Good morning. Oh, shoot. Did I just... Am I there? Yeah.
Still
Good
here.
Driving. Fine. Okay, so we're up to Tzadi Zayin Amud Aleph, in the middle of all the scams. Partial scams, and also how an almana could collect all her money. This is today's daf, right? Tzadi.
Of course, the schmoozing,
Now you're
everything
frozen.
is great. Once we start the daf, it freezes.
Toby, that's a great idea.
Of course, for the Moed. Something has to uplift the sukkah even more than normal.
Avi, does this look familiar?
Oh, is
Very
that the
fair.
special? Is that the special blend? Oh my God.
I got wrapping paper. I'm trying to figure out how to do it.
You need the
You know,
pipe.
yeah.
Where's the pipe?
Sorry about that. Okay, I'm back. Yeah. Tzadi Zayin is today's daf, correct? Yeah. Okay, so we're about 12 lines down from the top. Bo minei Rav Sheshis. Yeah. Yeah, so Bo minei Rav Sheshis. See it? 10, 12 lines down. So they asked the Shaila from Rav Sheshis. So again, we're talking about an almana selling fields from her husband, from her late husband, right? And she's allowed to sell the fields in order to get fed. Yeah, so if she got sold, if she sells the fields in order for herself to feed, in order to feed herself. So now what she's gonna do, she's gonna do a scam. She's gonna sell the field to a guy. Listen to this wise lady or scammer of a lady. She's gonna sell the field to a guy and say, I'm selling you the field to have the money for my food. Then she's going to go back to the guy and say, hey, that field is mine because that field was meshubed to me for the kesuba. So therefore, whoever sold it to you can't have it, wasn't allowed to sell it to you. Now it happens to be that she's the one that sold it, right? But the fields belong to her husband who died. She sold the field for her food. Now she wants to go back. And get the field off of the people that bought it by saying, that field was meshubed to this guy's almana, right? So what's the din then? So ma'ashatavs of a titch of kesuba, can she go back and again we said tarif literally means to tear up, but take back the field. So the Gemara says, this is a question about the psak of Rav Yosef, Damar Rav Yosef, which is in a couple of blocks from now. Armalta the zavin, if you have an almana who sold her so Armalta the Zavin and Almana that sells Achrayas Ayasmi. So the Achrayas is on the assignment, meaning if somebody comes and takes the field, so then the assignment are going to have to deal with it. Ubei Dina the Zavin. And what happens if Bezdin sold somebody's fields? So Bezdin sold the guy's fields. Achrayas Ayasmi. Also the Achrayas is on the assignment. So ultimately the Achrayas always goes on the assignment. So Kivan the Achrayas Ayasmi, since the Achrayas is on the assignment, Tarfa. That's why you're allowed to, the Haman is allowed to go back and take away the field. Right? Dilma, or maybe Matzi Amrila, Or the guy who bought the field can say, "Nehida achrayas da'alma like kavilas ilavach." You didn't take the achrayas for the world, meaning that the achrayas is not on the almana, it's on the assignment. But achrayas the nafshach, like kavilas, but your own achrayas that you're not accepting, meaning we're normally saying that the assignment are on the hook, right? It's their fields, they're their inheritors, so the fields are theirs. So if somehow the field got sold, that's their problem, right? But maybe here, where she's the one that sold the field, the assignment didn't sell it. Yes, granted, the fields really belong to the assignment, but she comes first in collecting it. So yes, so maybe it really is their problem. But here, she's the one that actually sold the field. So maybe she would be achrei on that, and she can't go take the field away, right? So Amalei Tinisu, he said we learned this. She's allowed to keep selling her whatever property the husband has. She's allowed to keep selling until she gets paid her kesuba. The sukkah's cold is coming on. The semechla, right, and that's going to be a smicha for her, meaning she's going to be able to rely on that. She'll be able to get the kesuba from the rest of the fields. Meaning she shouldn't sell all the fields for her food. Okay, she should leave some over so she'll be able to get the kesuba. So shmamina sheyara in, if she leaves over land, then she's going to get her kesuba. Loy sheyara loy, but if she didn't leave over any land, then she's not going to be able to get the kesuba. So therefore, one second. So therefore, she cannot collect the land from this land that she had. Yeah, what are you saying?
How do we see that from here? This would include if her kesuba is $20,000, let's say, and there's a $5,000 piece of property. So she sold that from a Zionist. Now what? There's nothing left. She can't.
What do you
is
mean?
She supposed to do? All the guy left over is a $5,000 piece of property.
Right.
So she sold that from a Zionist. But this price says, she can only sell ad kadei ksubasa, leave over, and she should take a ksuba from the rest.
Right.
The guy only had $5,000, so this would include that.
No, but she left it over.
She didn't leave it over because she's allowed to sell until ad kadei ksubasa.
No.
Does ad kadei ksubasa mean that that's what she has to leave?
Saying she should leave it over.
She should leave what over? What does it mean, lecheres v'hilachas?
A part of the field to pay for the kesuba.
There wasn't even enough at the beginning to pay for the kesuba.
That's not the case here. You're asking a different shayla.
There is no case.
Sure,
this price says what she should do.
No, Reb Sheshes is saying that if there's a lot of property that's worth a lot of money, she can keep selling it off from the zonos until there's enough left for the kesuba. Then she stops so she can collect kesuba. Your case is it's the value of the land is less than her kesuba. What does she do? That's not the case of Reb Sheshes.
But I would imagine that would include. She doesn't have to starve.
Well, that's up to the Beis then, right? Isn't that up to the Beis then to support a widow? She doesn't have to sell
the
cargo.
assignment. The assignment support the widow until she gets married.
Right, but
She doesn't have to sell cargo.
Without going to the assignment, but she's allowed to.
Right, so that's what she's doing. So she sold karka, and she sold all of it, and it did the whole value, the sum total value of the karka doesn't equal the kesuba, or equals the kesuba, but that's it.
Right.
So what's she supposed to do? She can't sell any karka, or she can sell.
Well, that's true. Right, I'm not so sure that that's true. She left. There is a parcel of land that does belong to her. No, I mean whatever that she'll have extra there. I think.
So the Bryce is a specific case. You're saying the Tanisua is a specific case.
What I thought, which I can't say I fully understand it, but that's the way it's been with all these blocks. So it's no chiddush, nothing's changed. Right. All right, either so Gemara asks, "Beduma eitza." This is the harder part of the daf. The rest of the daf after this shtickle Gemara is easy. Beduma eitza toiva kamashmalon. Who says that? Who says it's telling halacha? Maybe telling her it's a toiva. Delay likri lu hadranisa. She doesn't want to get the name of being a hadranisa, somebody who keeps changing her mind. Right? That's not good for shidduchim. Right? Oh yeah, she'll sell you a land. Watch out for this lady. She'll sell you a land, then she'll come back and take it back, etc., etc. So maybe that's what it's telling you. Meaning she theoretically could do it, right? She could go back and collect the land that she sold for her food. Again, she's trying to sell land for her food and then go back and say, hey, that land that I just sold you, I need for the kesuba. Right? That's what we're trying to do. And we said no, she can't do it. So maybe it's a toiva kamashal.
Didn't we have another name for a lady like this that collects every 2 years or 3 years? It doesn't collect.
You called her a what's it called? What did you call her?
Klafta?
Gold digger.
Gold digger. I thought we had a different word for that.
Yeah, there was something. I don't remember. What was it? I don't know. But that's what Gemara is saying. Maybe it's really she could do it, but it's not advisable because she's going to get a bad reputation. So Gemara says, "Imkain lisni goiva ksubasa min ashar." Why do you say she could get her ksuba? She could collect the ksuba from the rest. My samachla, my semechla. What's the semech that she could rely on? Nashma mina sheyara in. If she leaves over, yes. Not sheyara. I keep saying sheyara. Sheyara is a caravan. Shmamina shaira in. If she leaves it over, yes. Loy shaira loy. If she doesn't leave it over, not. Fine. Okay. That's the harder part. Now we get into a geshmaka shaila, which would theoretically come up, and then another raya why you can't paskin choshem mishpat without having some sort of knowledge. Because let's say somebody sold a field, right? Because he needed money. Why else does somebody sell a field? But then in the end, he did not need the money. He thought he needed some capital, right? But then he didn't need it. Hadri's vini or hadrini. Can he get back or not? Can he say, hey, I want my field back or not?
What's the havamina?
Oh, so what's the havamina? Why should he? Right? Imagine you go to a store and you could buy something, and then the guy says, and a week later he comes back to you and says, hey, I need it back because I only sold it because I needed money. Now I don't need the money, so I want it back. Right? There's no chance. So Tosfos says we're talking about when the guy sold it, he told you that the reason why he says, the reason why I'm selling you this car, let's say a guy sells the car is because I need the cash. So since he told him that he needs the cash, so then it says if he's making a t'nai, that's the Tosfos Zavan V'la Yisrich. That's what Tosfos says.
In your case of the store, I wouldn't work. Has anyone ever done that?
I've never heard.
That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't really work in real life.
Well, do try and they get a better deal or something like that. Try and back out, right? They do try and back out, but this guy's trying to back out by saying, "I really didn't want to sell." I mean, this could happen a lot. A collectible thing, something that's worth money to somebody, and he says, "Hey, I only sold you, so because I needed the money. Now I don't need the money, so I want it back." So Tosfos is saying that's gila daitoi b'shas hamecher da'amar delizvan turi kazavanlu, right? Because if he was quiet, that's dvarim shebelev. Dvarim shebelev is einan dvarim, meaning things in your heart are not anything. So this whole shaila only starts because when the guy was selling it to you, he said, I need the cash. So the Gemara is learning that, at least in the shaila, the Gemara is learning that must mean that, he needs the cash, that's why he's selling it. So if I wouldn't need the cash, then I'm not selling it to you. But if it's a regular purchase and the guy doesn't say anything, then there's nothing to talk about. He cannot change his mind. Right? So anyways, so that's the or not. So Tashima, Tahu Gavra, the Zaman Aral Rav Papa. There was a guy who sold fields to Rav Papa. And the reason why he needed to sell the fields is because he needed new oxen. Right? Not like a guy needs whatever a guy sells a field, sells his real estate because he needs the cash. So in the end, he didn't need it. And Rav Papa gave him back his land. Right? So you see that since he gave it back to him, since he gave it back to him, so that means that he held that if the guy sold it for a specific reason and the reason no longer is applicable, then that's it. And the Gemara answers, no, Rapapa lifnei mishuras adin udava. Rapapa was doing lifnei mishuras adin. Right? He didn't want to make machlokes, so therefore he went lifnei mishuras adin. Right? That's the way that's the way the Gemara is saying it now. Which I think Naphtali, is he on there, Naphtali? Yeah, so didn't we see in Brachas we want
Yes, I'm outside your house. I'm on it.
right,
I'm coming in a minute.
Rapapa was the one that tries not to make machlokes, right?
Yes, or Papa. Yes, that's why we have all the papas by the seam. We said.
So here too, he's trying to not to make machlokes. We're saying he did lifnei mishuras adin. Yeah, fine. So Tashima, next proof. Dahu bitzurta dahava ben arda. So there was a bitzurta. Bitzuris means like it was a famine. But here it doesn't really mean famine. It means that it was exactly what's going on now. There was a shortage of food, and inflation went through the roof. So people needed money. The whole, it says Kulei Alma, right, which obviously means the people from Nahador. Everybody sold their Aftanayu, means their mansions. They needed the money, so they sold the engine. They sold it, right? L'saif asuchiti. But then the wheat came. So when the wheat delivery finally came, the prices came down. So Amalu Rav Nachman told anybody that bought these mansions, Dinahu Dadri Aftana Lamarayu, you got to give it all back. Right? Because they only sold it because they were under duress. And since they were under duress, right? So then that's what do you call it? So they had to give it back. So you see, it's a proof that when somebody sells something because he needs the cash and he doesn't need the cash, you give it back. So when it's Hasamnami's Vini B'Tois Hava. No, there also it was a mistake. Why the Igloi Milsa? Now this is really here it gets into a lumdisha thing here. The Igloi Milsa that it was revealed the Arba Ba'akuli Havakaima. The ship was really in town. There was a shortage, right? So that made the prices go up so high. So everybody had to sell their houses. Then it came out that the ship was really in town, but it was stuck in the water. So since it was stuck in the water, that's why it didn't come. Right? It couldn't make landfall, I guess. Right?
So now, since everything's stuck on the way to China, I can return this because it's there.
That's mamish. I don't know if it's in Yonah Diyama now. It certainly was during Corona, right?
Since it's on its way, I can sell it.
No, basically what the Gemara is saying, if everybody would have known that the ship was around, it was going to come eventually, it just was delayed, nobody would have sold their houses. Nobody would have sold their houses. They said, well, we'll hold out. Meaning if you have no idea if there's any food coming, so then you need the food to eat, so you got to sell. But so here we're saying, no, they would never have sold had they known that the boat was in the vicinity. It's just going to take some time so 100%. So if you knew during these times that the ship was coming from China, it's just delayed because the workers were on strike or they couldn't find enough workers, whatever was going on in Corona. So then maybe we would make you give it back, because had you known, that's what it would have been. But if it would be total suffix, then maybe not. Right?
You're not possible, right? No.
Not possible. No way, you can't. But whatever it is, you see, it's not so pashut that when somebody sells something under duress that he can't take it back afterwards. The Gemara says either way.
I signed a contract with a catering hall under duress during Corona, right?
Yeah.
I can back out.
No, it is a different story. Here, the reason why
I started with a catering hall under duress, thinking that I'm making a chassan at the beginning of Corona.
You could only make it in Brooklyn, Unter and Tish, right? And then you find out that
the cop will be waiting in front, and I decided I want to back out. So so really, it means nothing. I could just back out.
Did you sell property for it?
Well, right.
I had to make a chassan, so I needed the money. So I sold my wife's gold watch, or my gold watch, because I needed money. So I could go back to the guy who sold the gold watch and say, you know what, I want to go watch. The whole thing was under duress.
I thought it was just karka.
The Gemara is saying you could only do that now if it was an unforeseen circumstance why you had to sell it.
I had to sell because
Because you needed to pay a lot of money to make a wedding in a fancy hall.
no, I wanted to make.
Isn't the Gemara saying now that at the time of the sale, really, the ship was already there, you just didn't know? Different
Correct.
than the other case where you sold whatever, and then at a later time, you realize you didn't need the money.
Right. So that's the example. That's a good point, right? So Zev, the case would be like, let's say your internet was down and you found out, oh, they opened up the wedding halls in New York City. Now you don't have to go out to the island and spend a lot of money, but you didn't know because your internet was down. Had you known, you would never have sold it. Right? That would be the case. That would be the case. And Hanami, maybe you'd be entitled. Maybe. I don't know. These are a recipe for real machlokes, I could tell you that. these situations. Anyways, so Gemara asks, Hainu Damar le Rami bar Shmuel Rav Nachman, that this Rami bar Shmuel said to Nachman, Imkain nimtzis machshil and lost lavai. But the problem is that you're going to be causing business damage for the future. Why? Because nobody's going to want to buy anything if all of a sudden a week later the guy comes and says, "Oh, I needed the money only because I thought I needed the money, so I needed the liquid, and now I'm nobody's going to buy anything from anybody if they think that this is a concern, right? Who's ever going to go buy real estate?
In the Hardah, it was common to have food shortages. It's not always common that you're going to buy something and then renege on the deal because you got this.
Correct, right. So that's sort of what the Gemara, right? That's what the Gemara is telling me. Right now, the Gemara is thinking, how can you go do this? How can you just let people back out of business deals when the reason why they sold it, the situation changes? Right. So Amalei, is it so common that people have starvation? Right? It's not so common that you're worried you're going to make it clear that they can't back out because people are no longer going to do business. It's not a common thing. I'm like David, this was saying, yeah, he's saying in Nardo it was very common, right? So therefore, you would all business would stop if you're going to allow this. And the Gemara Paskins, the Gemara says, and I think this is the way it says in Shulchan Aruch, that if the guy sold it for a specific reason and he doesn't need the money, then it goes back. But again, like Taisa said, you have to have told the person this, right? But again, you need to, meaning if you sell it, then there's no way you can back out. You have to be able to tell him, which then if the guy is aware of it, so then if he decides, he could tell him, listen, I'm only selling you the property because I need the cash. If I don't need the cash, I want the property back. Well, that's beferish. That's a beferish tonight. That for sure would work.
Is that karka also karka and metaltal or just karka?
If it works for karka, shouldn't it for sure work for metaltalin? I don't know. But that's the way it would work. So then the guy knows that he's into a risky business transaction.
No, when it says the hilchas, so when we halach, we pass like this, no?
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So let's see weiter. Mishna Almana Bein Min Ha'eres and Bein Min Ha'Sun. So again, we're talking about an Almana. By the way, Zev, I did my homework over Yom Tov, and these are special coolers for almanas. Regular people cannot go sell fields for no reason. These are special leniencies, dafka for almanas, and that's it. Regular wife cannot do any of this. Anyway, so almana person, an almana, whether she was only engaged, again engaged meaning she was married, but she didn't have the second stage. Bein min ha'nesuin, whether she had the second stage. Mocheres shaloi bebezdin, she's allowed to sell if she's not a bezdin, right? We had this Gemara yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever it was. All right, so she's always allowed to just go without bezdin and sell the fields for whatever it is she needs. Reb Shimon disagrees. He said, min ha'nesuin, if she was actually married, the second stage, which means she needs it for food, because when they're engaged, they don't get food, like we learned many times. They're only entitled to food after they're married. So Reb Shimon says, she's allowed to sell without bezdin. But from engagement, She's only allowed to sell it with bezdin. Why? Because she doesn't get food when she's engaged. And if she doesn't get food, she only sells it in bezdin. All right. Okay. So it's a machlokes tanoim. Again, the Tanakama holds yes, and that she could sell without bezdin whether they were engaged or not. And Reb Shimon says only from when they were married. That's it. So Gemara asks, Bishlam and Anasuin. So it makes sense from the Suin Mishum Bezaini, because she was fed on Talmud Beis now. Elamina Eris in my timer. But if it was for when she was engaged, why is she allowed to sell her husband's land in order to feed herself without bezdin? Right? She should be just like anybody else. So Mar'ula Mashum China, and this is something we had a couple times before. The reason why they don't want her, they want women to have chen, meaning they want women to marry men. So therefore, they wanted to make it that she didn't have to go to bezdin in order to sell herself food, or sell karka to get the kesuba, right? Meaning,
whatever with the time that a woman wants to be married.
What?
A woman wants to be married.
Oh, so the thing is, yes, that's true, but again, I sometimes the Gemara goes with that women want to beat them whichever way, and sometimes the Gemara says no, get them to be. I don't know exactly why here.
If here she has to embarrass herself in court, no guy is going to want to marry.
No, we're saying
she wants to be married.
We're saying she's not going to want to get married.
No, that's not what we're saying.
We're saying she won't get married if she knows she has to go to court.
Yeah, because men are not going to want to marry her. She embarrassed herself in court.
I see. That's a different way.
No,
I don't know.
She's not going to want to get married if she has to go to court to collect her kesuba. But we said somewhere else that women will do anything to get. She'd rather get
That's
married.
not what the Gemara is saying.
Well, there's different ways of learning what mashkon is, right?
What is
Rashi? Look at Rashi.
In order the balam should have
that she should be favorable in their eyes.
I hear what you're saying in the first line, but how do you understand the second line? And they're not going to stop themselves from getting married. And then the Rashi in Gittin has it a different way, right? And then this Tosfos before Tosfos, like I don't know where the Tosfos was. That's if they're gonna be able to get their kesubas easier, so then the men are gonna say, oh, she's got money, I'll marry her, right? Yeah. So anyways, so I don't know exactly what it is, and I don't know how we answer that with that women, the women want to get married anyways. Though I think the pashut way to understand it is that they're limited in how they're going to want to get married. To embarrass themselves in bezdin is already too much.
No problem, but they'll marry a guy without an arm or a midget because they want to stay married, right?
And yeah, so that's bushanat, right? That's what Dr. Korman is saying. Also, like if they embarrass themselves in bezdin, it just makes them look bad. Even though, what did we have last week with the bezdin? We said there's different types of ladies. There's prosta ladies who don't mind going.
And Snoop and the Prutzen.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm putting it under the category. I have no idea what's flying. I don't understand how to put all this stuff together. All right,
it just works with the whole territory. We can't understand women.
Very hard. The psychology of what was going on back then is very difficult. Either way, okay. So he's saying mishum chen. Rav Yochanan Rav Yishayin Adam Reichish Tizbaze Ishtoi bebezdin. See, so that already. Now, what does that mean? He doesn't want his wife to have to be embarrassed in court. So therefore, what? So since he didn't want his wife to be embarrassed, so he's in his das, the wife can go collect even without bezdin. Okay, so my benai, what's the difference between these two answers? It could be a grusha, right? So let's say they were divorced, and now she's looking to get her ksuba. So lamandam shumchina grusha nami boyechen. A grusha needs chen too, because so that she'll go marry somebody else. Lamandama. Excuse me. Lamandama lefishain adam writes shetis baze ishta bebezdin. But according to Mandamar, it says that a person doesn't want his wife to get embarrassed in Bezdin. Grusha leichus, he doesn't care. He's divorced from her, so why should he care if she gets embarrassed or not? Yeah. Okay, so that whatever it is, that's the reason for the Tanakama. Why the Tanakama says that any type of almana, whether she's from engagement or not, can go to Bezdin and collect can collect even without going to Bezdin. So then Gemara asks, Tananu grusha loy simcha ela bebezdin. A grusha, if she's trying to get her ksuba, she has to do it only at Bezdin. Okay, so Bishlam, now the Gemara turns the tables. Bishlam, so according to the one that says a person doesn't want his wife to get embarrassed in Bezdin, so he doesn't care about a grusha. Therefore, she always has to go to Bezdin when she wants to sell a field in order to get her ksuba. But according to the Mandomer that says of chen, grusha nami boy chen, a grusha also needs chen. So meaning we want her to marry men. So why should she go to Bezdin? So Gemara says, "Hamani Reb Shimon." Nah, that brisa is going according to Reb Shimon, who holds that an engaged woman is not allowed to go without Bezdin, right? So clearly he doesn't bother him about this whole thing of busha. So Gemara says, "Reb Shimon hatana lereisha mina erisin loisimchar." It says in the reisha from erisin they don't sell. So Rabbi Shimon already said it. So why do you have to repeat it? No. So now the same almana min erisin who deloy nafesh chen dida. Almana from erisin. So there's a lot of right. And almana from erisin is not a lot of chen, right? Now again, I'm not sure I understand this either. Why is it not a lot of chen? So Rashi says because they were never together, right? They were only engaged, so they never had intimacy, right? And Memela what? So because they never had intimacy, that
there's not the closeness that there is.
it has to do with women going to Bezdin, right? That women don't want to have to go to Bezdin. So what does that have to do with whether they had relations or not?
A woman who hasn't had relations is going to be more desirable, so it doesn't matter if she has to go to court.
Is that how you say? Is that the pshat? I don't know. I didn't understand it. Yeah, so maybe. He says, it's not going to look bad for other women that, this woman has to go to court to collect her money for her ksuba. That's embarrassing. So they're going to say that it's not embarrassing if they didn't have relations.
No, it's still embarrassing, but she's more desirable because she never had relations.
Is that, I don't know. Is that what Rashi means? I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure. Right?
Where's Rashi?
The loy nafesh, it's up a little bit it's up like 10 lines.
Loy nafesh per day.
There was no chibas bias. It's not going to look bad in the eyes of women if this woman had to have the tircha for this. Meaning, women are not going to say, the way Rashi seems to be saying it, is like women are not going to say, oh, why would anybody want to get married? Look at this lady. She got engaged and she has to go to court to sell fields in order to get her ksuba. What kind of craziness is that with the ksuba? Right? But they're not gonna say that if they never had intimacy. I guess because they were never strongly married, so therefore
it could. If they never had intimacy, then they can say because for me as a wife, I have to go beg for my ksuba now. I'm not gonna go beg. Oh, but you start me a nice one, then I'll go to Bezdin, because then you're like any other person.
Yeah.
I mean, the women don't want to beg for their
correct.
For what's due to them when they're married.
Right. But if they were only engaged, okay, so it wasn't such a strong relationship. So
like mom like all the other guys.
Okay, maybe.
I mean, I don't know. It's very we don't
What
understand the mentality.
Yeah. Aval grusha. Then what's the next line? But grusha. But if she's divorced, the nafish chen dida. She had chen because they were intimate. Ema tibai chen. So therefore, we have to let her out because we want her to continue to get married to somebody else. So therefore, that was what we would have thought. Kamash Malon, that no, she also has to go to Bezdin. Okay, I don't know. I can't really say that I understand the mentality here. I don't know. Gershon's itching to say something. No, all right.
Nah, I think it's just a 2-day Yom Tov.
Not
Okay.
tonight.
Okay. So Gemara says,
Thursday night. If it was Thursday night tonight, I would say it. If it was
I hear-
Yosef.
I hear.
This is the medrash the Rashi brings on why Rachel called Yosef Yosef. It's a perspective thing that a woman thinks that people are thinking about her a certain way. Rashi brings the medrash. Until now, Yaakov Avinu blamed me if I smashed the dish, but now I have a kid to blame it on. I mean, Yaakov Avinu blamed her for smashing it. No way.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
what she would think. It's the way a person thinks.
That's okay. But yeah, okay. I don't know if the mentality is like that either. Bismanazeh, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, Honami Tanina. So Gemara says, no, we learned that too. Kol she'en lemezainis. If she does not get mezainis, lasuye mai. What is that coming to include? Lav lasuye grusha. Isn't that coming to include a grusha? Right? Because she's not getting fed. A divorce, only an almana gets fed from the estate, not a grusha. Right? So the Gemara says, La lasuye migureshes ve'ena migureshes. Now it's coming to include a woman who's divorced and not divorced. What does that mean? It means that it's a suffix divorced, which the classic case is the get was thrown to her, but we're not sure whether it was meaning it was thrown halfway between him and her, and we're not sure who it was closer to. So the question is she divorced? Anytime we say that she's a suffix, whether she's divorced or not, then the husband still has to feed her until they figure out that she's for sure divorced. So there is a scenario where a divorcee would be required to have be fed by her husband. Okay, so Tashima, Gemara asks, Kishem shemecheres shaloi bebezdin. So the same way that sell her the almana is allowed to sell the property without bezdin, kach yarsha, her yarshim also yarshe kesuba. So the ones who are gonna get her kesuba, meaning if she dies, ma'ichnum shaloi bebezdin, they're also allowed to sell without bezdin. So now Yorshim are not almonas, they're not women. So So according to Madam, it says the reason why we let her sell it even without going to Bezdin is that the woman shouldn't be embarrassed. The same way that he doesn't want the almana to be embarrassed. So the Yorshim also meaning he doesn't want his yarshim to have to go to Bezdin also to go sting for their supper to go sell fields. Meaning if it's all totally in the das of the husband. So he says, why I don't want my wife to have to go to Bezdin to get her money, and I don't want her yarshim either to go. So fine. So that what's yarshim? What they're males. What kind of chain is there? No, we're talking about where the Yarshim were ladies. It was either her daughter, because she only had daughters, not sons, or it's her sister, because there was no kids at all. And therefore, we are talking about where the Yarshim are also women. But Enochanami, if the Yarshim wouldn't be women, then they would not be able to they would have to go to court. They would not be able to sell the karka without court. Okay, let's see a little bit weiter. So let's say, so we said that she's allowed to sell the field without bezdin, right? Yeah. So let's say she sold enough fields to pay for the whole kesuba, right? Or she only sold it to get part of her kesuba. Yeah, meaning she sold a cheap field, let's say, wasn't going to pay for her whole kesuba. right? Mashkon kesuba, or she used her kesuba as a mashkon, meaning she borrowed money and as collateral she used her kesuba, oy miksasa, or part of it. Nasnu kesuba salacher, she gave her kesuba to somebody. She just gave it away. Oy miksasa, or part of it. Loy simcha ersashar elo bezdin. Then she cannot sell the rest unless she's part of bezdin. Yeah, because well, we're going to see in the Gemara why that is. She could sell her ksuba. She can sell it 4 or 5 times. She could even sell for her food, even shalebet bezdin. Because and she has to write, and this we learned a couple of days ago also, she has to write that she's selling it for her food, right? Because we didn't want her. That was an Eitzah Toiva we had said, right? We said, write that why you're selling the field so it doesn't look like you're some sort of lady who's, that was the gold digger parents. Like, her husband died, she's selling fields, she's liquidating his whole property. No, she writes in it, she's selling it for her food. And like we just said, a grusha can only sell in Bezdin. So when it says Masnisim money, who's the Tan of our Mishnah? Reb Shimoni. It's Reb Shimon. Like again, in the previous Mishnah, we learned that Reb Shimon said that only from marriage can she sell it. The Tanya Machra Ksubasa, if a woman sold a Ksuba, Mashkon Ksubasa, or she did it as a Mashkon, also Ksubasa Apoitiki Lacher, or she made it as an Apoitiki, which again is also some sort of, how do you say it? Collateral or a lien. Ain la mezainis, she does not get mezainis. Right? Once she got rid of her ksuba, she no longer gets fed from the estate. Even if she didn't sell it and she wasn't mashkon ksuba, ela machtzisa, right? She only did half of the mezainis. Even if she didn't get her full ksuba, she still loses her mezainis. So Gemara asked, "Remember the Reb Shimon Savar the Layam Rina mixas kesef kekol kesef." Does Reb Shimon not say that mixas a little bit of money is like a lot, as like all the money? V'Rabbanan Sabri Amrinan mixas kesef kekol kesef, and the Rabbanan say we do say that a small part of the money is as if the whole money was taken or sold. We heard the opposite. The Tanya of who Isha B'Suleh, right? It says by a kohen gadol. A kohen gadol has to have a basula dafka. Pratla v'geres shekola b'Suleh, right? This is excluding a begeris that doesn't have her psula. Now, I think parrots, we had this by Bela's Vart is when we learned this. I don't know. I remember doing this by Bela's Vart. His parrots' daughter's Vart. But anyways, so a kohen gadol can only marry a basula, and that excludes a begeris who's still a basula. Really, she was never with a guy. She just doesn't have the hymen, right? So even that can't go to a kohen gadol. Divrei Meir, Reb Elazar, Reb Shimon, Machshir, Begeris. They say a begeris is kosher, right? So what do you see from this? So you see that part of the kesef is considered like the whole kesef, at least according to Reb Meir, right? And according to Reb Elazar, no, you would split it up. So the Gemara answers no. Hasan b'kitzah, one is not telling on the other. So we say Hasan b'kroi pligi. There, the whole machlokes is in the pasuk. Rameir savar basula, afilu mixas basula. Rameir says when it says a basula, that as long as she has even part of her psulim, that's good enough for the kohen. Basula, right? But it says the word basula and not basula. Ad deika kulu basulim, until the woman has the whole basulim, the whole hymen. B'basula. But since it says busak with kedarka in shalai kedarka loy, that's only if she had be a kedarka. But if shalai kedarka, right? Then if she had be a shalai kedarka, then she could still be with the kohen. Rabbi Elazar of Shimon Sabri basula shleima mashma. The word basula is mashma, full hymen. Basula, and the basula is even mixas basulim. And then so okay, what's bibisula? Bibisula means whole basula kaimen, that all her basula has to be there. It's a full hymen. Bain bekedarka, bain shaloi kedarka, whether she had be a kedarka or shaloi kedarka. Right, so she has to be a total basula. So therefore, that machlokes, we thought that machlokes has to do with whether partial is considered full or not. And now the Gemara is saying no, it's just a machlokes and how you learn the psukim. Yeah. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll stop here. I hope that was semi-understandable. Tomorrow night, I imagine around regular time should be good, but I don't know, based on the length of Kolamayad shifts, etc. We'll post it to see for exact time. But figure Barach the 8:30. All right.
Thank you. Good
Heavy.
night.
Very.
Okay.
Did
Good
he leave?
night.
Yeah, Shikoyach Haget Moyed.
Did anyone check on Reb Aaron?
What?
Did anyone check and see if Reb Aaron's okay? What's that?
He's in Eretz Yisrael.
No, but the Mets lost. Does anyone check on him?
Yeah, no, when he's in Eretz Yisrael, he forgets about it. He's getting when he's in Eretz Yisrael, he forgets about it. I find that he forgets about it.
Maybe that's why they lost, because he wasn't here to help them.
Could very well be. I'm happy he wasn't here for it. Right? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's what all the Cholamaya trips I had planned for the night entertainment for the kids. It's gone.
Well,
What can I do?
Tiago,
The parent seems to have figured it out.
Tiago, you could do what my kids did, and this is nice look on the walls. They got the Yankee game going.
I was wondering what was going on back there.
I said it doesn't bother me if it's projected behind me. I don't care.
They're not true Mets fans if they're watching the Yankee game.
Shiloh is, yeah, if they shut it off, does it become booked now? The whole wall.
They're rooting for Cleveland, though.
Are they rooting for Cleveland? Nah, they gotta root for.
If they're true Mets fans, then they are.
That's true. That's true. I hope that they would root for New York over that. I guess it's Gershon. We got to root against Gershon. I'm sure Gershon doesn't even have any idea. Right?
Not a clue. I could see the C just about. I don't know who that was until he said Cleveland.
It's really the Indians. That much I'll tell you.
Yeah.